Hi, everyone. My name is Frank Spangler. I'm the multimedia specialist at ADRA Canada. And we're making a little series on how to get better video and photos with your smartphone. The series that we're going to produce is going to primarily focus in on how to get better video, but we'll also talk about photographs as well. And the reason why we're creating this little series is because we've been getting a lot of requests from the field to have a training series like this. You probably know that ADRA Canada has been asking you to submit stories and submit video and photographs because it's just becoming more difficult for us to make it out to the field with the cost of flights these days. I would love to be able to come and film your project myself, but it's just cost prohibitive these days. And you can help us with that by submitting photographs, video, and stories from the field. Now, we realize that not every office has a high-end video camera or a specialist to go out and film these stories. And so that's why we're creating this series. We realize that today's smartphones can actually film in high quality. And with just a few tips and tricks and pointers, I believe that we can help you send in high quality video that we can use in our reports. And so what I want to do in this first introductory video is kind of get you familiar with some of the basic principles of getting better video with your phone. We're going to quickly go through 10 tips that will help you become a better videographer with your smartphone right now, today, in this one short introductory video. And then we'll create a series that goes into more depth and more detail on each one of these 10 points. So with that introduction, let's get started. The first tip that I have for you today is clean your lenses. A lot of times people will hand me their phone. They say, there's something wrong with my phone. All my photos seem to be smudgy and blurry. And I thought it's not that old of a phone. I don't know what's going wrong. And what I'll do is I'll take a look at the lenses on their camera or on their smartphone, and I see that they're all full of dirt and their fingerprints on them. They're all smudged up. And this can happen very easily because when we're handling our phone, going through our Facebook account, our fingers are often touching the lens of the camera. And so it fills up with the natural oils that are on our fingers. It can really smudge up and make the photographs and video look quite bad. And so I recommend taking a lens cleaning cloth and wiping down your lenses before you take any photographs. You might want to do this 4 or 5 times a day because, just setting your camera down, depending on what sticky substance might be on your countertop, could really mess up your lenses. It's good if your case has a lip here that keeps your lenses somewhat separate from the countertops that you might set it down on. That always helps. But still, carry this cloth around you and wipe down your lenses before you shoot anything important. Now, some people say, well, why don't I just use my shirt? I don't know if I can carry one of these around. The problem is that many fabrics today that are being used to make clothing can actually scratch your lens. Then your smudgy photographs would be permanent. There'd be nothing you can do. So it's better to take a proper lens cleaning cloth. You can get them from your optometrist or camera store, and it's great to have maybe 3 or 4 of these in different places in your bag, your pocket. It's good too when you're not using your phone to be kind of self-conscious about where you're storing your phone, because there might be sticky things or things that can actually scratch up your lens inside your pocket. And as you walk around, those little nails or whatever else you might have in your pocket could be scratching up your lenses. And that's a lot harder to fix. Quick tip number 2, and that is get closer to your subject. A lot of the video and photographs that come into our office from different parts of the world One of the biggest criticisms that I would have is that they're too far away from the subject, and it will make your videos and photographs much more compelling if you're a lot closer to the subject. And I recommend that you actually physically get closer rather than trying to use your zoom. There's several reasons. We'll talk about that in upcoming lessons about why it's better to be closer to your subject than it is to use the zoom. But just trust me for now, it's better to get closer to your subject, and that way your photos and videos will be that much more compelling. Quick tip number 3. Make sure that your subject is well lit. A lot of times when I'm out in the field, I have to open windows in the school if I'm getting shots of students in their room, because a lot of these classrooms are really dark. Or if you're in a clinic or you're filming in someone's home, a lot of times it's dark in there. And so you need to do what you can to lighten up your subject. A lot of times it's just a matter of opening some windows, some doorways, move your subject closer to the light. If you have electricity, you can try turning on some lights, but I prefer working with natural light whenever possible. If it's just too dark, you might have to move your subject outdoors. And even then, when you're outdoors, you might have to turn your subject or move yourself so that the face is nicely lit up. We'll talk more about that in our lesson on lighting. Tip number 4, I call level up. What do I mean by level up? What is happening, I believe, is that a lot of people are coming into the classroom or the clinic where the patient is talking to the nurse, and they're just standing above them, and what they do to get the shot is just kind of tilt down and take the photo or take the video. What will be better is if you can just bend your knees a little bit and come down to the level of the student or the patient and nurse, and make sure that the lens of your camera are at the same level as the eye of the student. So you want to be eye level when you take your shot. Quick tip number 5, and this is really important. I want you to become familiar with the menu settings of your smartphone as it relates to photography and video. Now, we'll spend a whole lesson on this, and I'll record my screen so you can see exactly what I'm doing on my phone. That'll give you a general idea of what you should do on your phone. But as we wait for that lesson, I'd like to give you a little homework assignment, and that is go to the settings of your smartphone and scroll down till you see something like camera on the menu, and click on that and take a look at all of the different settings that your smartphone offers, whether it's still photography or video, and just become familiar with the options that you have on your smartphone. You can even go ahead and experiment with changing some of these settings. When we actually do the lesson on settings, I'll show you what I believe to be maybe the best settings for when you're doing important photography or filming for either your office or professional use. And that way you'll know what to do just before you set up to do an important shoot. Tip number 6 has actually a lot to do with tip number 5. When you're doing your homework assignment and you're going through the settings of your camera, keep an eye out for a setting to turn on the grid of your camera. Now, it might already be on. Some smartphones come with the grid already on, and you may have wondered, well, what is that? It's 2 lines that come down this way and 2 lines that go this way, almost like you're playing X and O's. And what that does is it helps you, especially when you're just learning photography, it helps you compose your shot better. And the idea is to put the most important things in your shot so that it's intersecting one of those lines. And we'll talk more about that when we do our lesson on composition. All right, tip number 7, and that is use a tripod whenever possible. Now, I should say that I'm not necessarily telling you to use a tripod for the everyday use of your camera. When you're filming your cat doing something funny, or you're filming your children out in the playground, you'd want to have the flexibility of moving very quickly and framing your shot, and then maybe something's happening over there. After you get the shot, you want to be able to quickly go over there. You don't want to have to mess around setting up your tripod every time. You'll probably miss a lot of shots. But when you're filming for something important, especially if it's an interview, we recommend that you find a good tripod. And we'll talk more about what I mean when I say a good tripod, because a lot of times when you go to a camera store or maybe you're shopping online, the tripod that they might recommend might be too flimsy. I've got one here that it's very handy and very lightweight and easy to get around. It's kind of a selfie stick, but you can also open it up and it becomes a tripod as well. The problem is with these flimsy tripods for smartphones is that it can topple over in a strong wind and damage your camera. And so I recommend going and getting a proper tripod, and then you can purchase an additional piece to screw onto the top of a proper tripod, and that way you have a top that is designed to hold your smartphone, but you have a tripod that's very sturdy and won't topple over in the wind. Quick tip number 8. When you are going handheld, try and keep in mind that the steadier you can keep your phone while you're filming, especially, it doesn't matter so much when you're taking a photograph, but when you're filming video, try and think of the different things that you can do to keep your camera steady. And we'll spend a whole lesson on this, but here's some quick tips. Number 1, you can hold your breath before you start. And then keep your breath held so you're not breathing up and down while you're filming. You can brace your arms against your chest, and that way you give your camera a little bit more stability while you're filming. You can lean up against a tree or a building and have your arms touching the wall or tree, and that adds stability. If you just got your chest, you might still be breathing up and down if it's a long shot, But if you've got your arm up against a tree or a building, that's going to be more stable. Maybe you rest the camera on a table, or rest your elbows on a table, or prop up some books so that you're resting your camera and getting it at the right level. So there's lots of different things that you can think about that will help keep your camera steady. All right, quick tip number 9. If you are filming for a specific story that you're sending in, say you've done an interview and you want to be able to send it in a way that we can use, in addition to getting the interview, it's good to spend another hour or two getting what we call BRoll shots. So keep that in mind when you're scheduling your interviews. A lot of times when people are filming for the first time, they'll schedule in maybe 8 interviews for the day, and they'll spend an hour with each person getting the interview, but then they don't have any shots that are interesting to illustrate what the people are saying. And we'll talk a lot more about that when we come to the lesson on the variety of shots that you need to get, the B-roll, to help make our story, make your interview interesting. All right, last tip number 10, and that is, do you want to shoot vertical when you do your video shots or horizontal? When you're shooting for yourself, of course, you know what you want to use it for, but if you're filming for someone else, you're sending your media in to the head office or to us at ADRA Canada, be sure and check with us, because we may have a specific idea in mind how we want to use your story. If it's just for social media, we may ask you to film everything in a vertical way. Now, it hasn't always been this way. I mean, for many years, we as video producers would make fun of people that sent in their video vertically. But these days, vertical is becoming more and more accepted and more desired. And in fact, the stock company that I film for is asking for vertical stock. And so it's become much more acceptable, especially when the video target is social media. So check and make sure what your customer or your client or your office is really wanting to do. If you're filming for me, most of the video that I edit, I like it to be horizontal. But I know that the guy sitting next to me here at ADRA Canada is the social media guy. He wants everything vertical for him. And so be sure and check with us or your client or your office as to what format they want before you film. It could be that you might need to do it both ways. And so take some shots vertical and some shots horizontal. And that way, Randy over here can use the vertical shots for his social media, and I can use the horizontal shots for our more traditional YouTube, Vimeo, and sometimes even broadcast use. We like to have it in the horizontal format. So that's our introductory video for today, and I hope that you were able to pick up a few quick tips. We also hope that we've whetted your appetite and that you will come back and watch each video that we release that will cover all of these things in much more detail so that you can learn how to take better photos and video using your smartphone. So long for today.